Hi guys, today we're gonna do part 9 of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the long haul. So we're on chapter page 120. Okay, so that's where I am. I reached out real slow and plucked Manny's dummy out of the pig's mouth, and that's when it bit me. Shriek. Chomp. I guess the pig decided this was its chance to make a run for it. It hopped up on Manny's seat and tried to squeeze through the window, which was open a crack. Wiggle squirm. The pig managed to get its head and front legs out of the window and would have made it all the way out if Mom hadn't jumped over her seat and grabbed its hind legs. But when she lunged for the pig, she kicked a bottom on the stereo, and now we had the Spanish CD blaring at full volume. Por favor, habla más despacio. Sorry, I can't read Spanish. Squeal. The whole time. Dad was swerving all over the place. Eventually, Mom got the pig back inside and closed Manny's window. Dad managed to pull the van over and turn off the stereo. It was quiet in the car for a full minute while everyone caught their breath. Dad was really mad that we messed up his business call, and he let us know it. But he probably should have made sure his phone was off first, because when he put it to his ear, his client was still on the other end. Tuesday. After Dad's work call disaster yesterday, he and Mom had a long talk outside the car. When they got back in and we drove in silence for a while, half an hour later we pulled into the parking lot of a petting zoo. Mom opened the side door and took the cooler with the pig in it out of the van. Mom went inside, and 5 minutes later she came out with an empty cooler. Personally, I wasn't sad to see the pig go, but Manny was a different story. I'm not so sure Mom was doing the petting zoo any favors by donating a pig that bites kids. And speaking of which, my finger was really killing me. Dad said that the pig probably hadn't had any immunizations and might even have rabies, which was not what I wanted to hear. I've seen enough horror movies to know that when a person gets bitten by an animal, nothing good comes of it. The last thing I need is to turn into some kind of war pig, because that could really mess up my dating life. There's a full moon tonight. Really, I hadn't even noticed. Mom took a look at my finger and I could tell she was a little worried. She said we should find a doctor to check it out, which didn't calm my nerves any. Mom tried to find an emergency care place on the GPS, but there was nothing within a 50-mile radius. But she did find the veterinarian's office 5 minutes up the road. She said a veterinarian would have the same stuff as a regular doctor, but a vet could actually be better because they might know a thing or two about pig bites. I honestly thought Mom was joking around about this veterinarian thing, but she was dead serious. And a few minutes later we pulled into the parking lot. Mom talked to the receptionists at the front desk while the rest of us waited on a bench. A minute later, Mom came back with her clipboard and some paperwork to fill out. All I can say is I hope this stuff doesn't get filed on my permanent record, because if it crops up later in my life, it would be embarrassing. emergency pet care, patient restriction, pet's name, Heffley, owner's name, Susan Heffley, species human, last vaccination, January 12th, history of worms, yes, as a toddler, last rabies shot,
Not applicable.
not applicable, spayed neutered, no. Once Mom handed in the forms, the receptionist told me I could sit with the other patients to wait for the doctor. You'd think I'd get some sort of priority because I'm a human being, but I got put behind a gerbil that had swallowed a cigarette, and the cat that had got its face stuck in a yogurt container. Cough, cough. When we had our dog, Sweetie, Mom had to take him to the vet a bunch of times for getting into stuff he wasn't supposed to eat. But the last time she took him, she didn't really need to. Mom had found some empty telephone wrappers from a pack of whoopie pies in the laundry room, and she figured Sweetie had eaten them. Apparently, chocolate is like poison to a dog, so Mom rushed him to the vet to get his stomach pumped. When Mom brought Sweetie home for the vet, she told me he had got into the whoopie pies and I felt kind of bad because I was the one who ate them, not the dog. And from what I've heard, getting your stomach pumped isn't a real pleasant experience. I owe you one. I feel like my visit to the vet was payback for the whoopie pie accident, especially when the nurse weighed me on the same scale that used for dogs. The nurse took my temperature too and had me hold the thermometer under my tongue for 30 seconds. When I got back to the waiting area, Roderick told me that when take an animal's temperature, they stick the thermometer somewhere else, and they probably use the same one for all their patients. I also know where they stick it. I was worried Roderick might be right, but then I realized this information was coming from a guy who was eating gerbil pellets. Crunch, crunch. Twice, while we were waiting at the vet's, Manny bolted out of the front door, and both times Dad grabbed him before he got too far, and I think Manny was pretty mad about us leaving his pig at the petting zoo, and he was acting out. Kick, squirm. When I was Manny's age, I used to get mad at Mom and Dad and trying to run away all the time. I remember once when we were in the changing room at the pool and Mom was trying to make me wear a bathing suit. I didn't like it. I took off running, but I wasn't really thinking about where I was going. Roderick used to run away a lot too. When he was in first grade, he'd take off every day at the same time, but he'd come back home when Mom told him his favorite TV show was on. When Manny tried to run away a third time, today Mom bought a retractable leash at the front desk to try to keep him under control. Strain. Mom also got a bandage for Roderick's foot so we could start going into restaurants as a family again. Finally, the veterinarian was ready to see me, and the nurse led us into the exam room. My palms started getting sweaty because I was getting a little nervous when it's time to see the doctor. I'm not a big fan of needles, and Mom knows it. So whenever I need to get a flu shot or something, Mom doesn't tell me it's coming. And by the time I figure out what's going on, it's too late. Hey, is that a hot air balloon? Where? But there weren't any shots this time round. Mom told the vet what had happened, and she took a look at my finger. The vet said there was nothing to worry about since the pig's teeth hadn't broken the skin. She put some antibacterial ointment on my finger just to be safe, and then sent me on my way. Dab, dab. I gotta say, I was pretty impressed by the whole vegetarian experience. The doctor was no nonsense and didn't ambush me with any needles. I figure when we get back home, I might research some vegetarians in our area. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to make the switch, but I do want to see what my options are after the vets. Dad spent some time trying to get the gum out of the sunroof with a popsicle stick, but it was too messy and eventually he gave up. Dad didn't like not being able to close the sunroof, so he drove around trying to find a mechanic who could fix it, but nobody he talked to would do it for under $100. So Dad went to a grocery store and bought some cellophane and duct tape, and he fashioned his own sunroof stretch. I think Dad was pretty proud of himself for saving money on repairs, especially when it started to rain and his homemade sunroof held up. But after a while, the cellophane started filling with water and bugs slush. Eventually, the whole thing gave way, and for once I was glad to be sitting in the back. Sploosh. We parked under an overpass and waited for the rain to clear up while Manny and Roger changed into some dry clothes. The trip was a total disaster up to this point, and even Mom was ready to admit it. She said it probably wasn't such a good idea to do everything according to the magazine, and that if we switched things a little, maybe we could turn the trip around. Mom said that from then on we'd go wherever the road took us, and we'd make decisions as a family along the way. She said the rest of the trip could be like those choose your own adventure books. I always liked those books because on every page you get to make a decision that changes the story. The problem is I never seem to make the choices that get me to a happy ending. In fact, it seems like no matter what choice I make, it's always the wrong one. I wasn't so sure about Mom's new approach, but I figured anything was an improvement as long as I didn't get bitten by any more pigs. After the rainstorm passed, we got back in the cave car and gave Mom's idea a try. When we reached our first intersection, she asked everyone if we should turn right or left or go straight. So this is the end of the video. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. Bye.